Welcome to Screaming on Streaming.
You don't have sound. Yeah, Todd, I still think you don't have sound. I think people can hear me in the background because I can hear myself on Twitch. Hi, Twitch. uh, so we're gonna figure out what's going on while Todd figures something out. But I guess you can hear me from the shadows somehow. Twitch, confirm if you can hear me as well. Yes, okay, you hear Darko. There you go. First of all, Father Goblin, thank you for recognizing my voice. I appreciate that. Okay, okay. Indeed. So yeah, I think I don't know. I think maybe it's some Todd's trick. It's a spooky stream anyway, so he's trying to be ghostly without audio. But yeah, I can narrate what Todd is doing. So Todd is currently trying to figure out his audio problems, as we all are all doing. And I think that's kind of a good introduction to a spooky episode. The worst thing that can happen when you're trying to stream successfully is that your audio goes away.
Yeah.
So yeah, I'm not. I can hear Todd through a different channel. Just so you know. So if you start hearing Todd, let us know because I have no idea. Todd, every once in a while, just throw a voice out there so we can.
This
we
is
can hear.
I couldn't have picked a finer guest to help me out
Exactly.
during
There you go.
during a episode where I have complete total failure of my
Yeah, Todd is just saying how great of a guest I am, and I'm flattered. By the way, oh, we can hear Todd. Father Goblin says we can hear Todd. So success.
And the amazing thing is, I did nothing to fix it. So it truly was a ghost in the machine, I assume, because, yeah, that no idea what happened there. Again, let me start over. And yeah, so it is Wednesday at 4 o'clock, and it is time for Streaming on Streaming, a live weekly show on the AWS Twitch channel where we talk about building live streaming applications with a focus on Amazon Interactive Video Service. 2 ground rules before we get started. This show is developer focused. You will not hear any marketing ever. And the second rule is keep it friendly. No spam, no abusive or offensive or insensitive messages in chat. Ask questions, have fun, make fun of me for my microphone not working for some magical reason. Anything you like, but keep it nice and friendly. And as you can see here, if you haven't figured it out yet, obviously today is a very special Halloween themed episode. My special guest is Darko Mesaroš. a senior developer advocate at AWS. I couldn't have picked a finer guest to have on when I'm having a terrible time with technical difficulties, because Darko is an expert at this. Darko, and that's why we have you on today. Welcome to the show. Thank you for covering for me, throwing the little eyebrow up there.
Thank you, Todd.
Yeah, thank you for covering for me, and thank you for being here. If you don't know Darko, where have you been? Darko is the co-host of Build On AWS with Jackie Grindrod. Am I saying that right?
Yes, you are.
Jackie, another awesome developer advocate at AWS. And so Darko, you have been here in the States for how long now? You're new to the States, correct?
So, well, no, I'm an old Amazonian, as they call it. I've been here 7 years almost. So I've kicked off my career at AWS as a premium support engineer. So I was the person you would call to yell at when some of the services don't work.
Okay.
But I'm a developer advocate for like 2 years now. I am new in the sense that we have never met before, and I moved to the United States like 10 months ago. So technically you are correct.
Okay. So
technically you are correct.
So you moved to the States 10 months ago. You're in Seattle, correct?
Seattle, the region, let's call it the Seattle metropolitan area.
Okay, the Pacific Northwest, as it were.
The Pacific Northwest.
Okay, and feel free to throw on your poltergeist costume at any time, by the way, or any of your other various amazing costumes that you have. This is Poltergeist Darko, Lord of Darkness Darko, if I may. So Darko, I was scrolling through your LinkedIn. You've at least from your job history, it looks like you've kind of lived all over the world. Have you lived all over the world, or is it just that your companies were located all over the world?
So I like to tell the story that I've changed 6 countries in the last, 10 years-ish. And the whole reason is that I actually have lived in multiple countries. I originally come from Serbia, a wonderful little place in Southeast Europe. So that means Serbia was one country. Then I moved to Czech Republic. Again, wonderful place to be. Then I lived in Malta for a while, a small little island south of Italy. Then I lived in Ireland for 2 years. Then in Germany for 4 years. And now the 6th place is the United States of America. So I did my fair share of travel around the world. So for all people who wish to keep on moving through different countries, don't do it. It's not fun. There's a lot of stuff you need to handle. And if you're hoping to get like retirement funds from a specific country, forget about it.
Yeah, that's a great point. So question for you, since this is screaming on streaming this week, what... all these countries you've lived in, is Halloween real big in these other countries, or is it as crazy? Because this would be your first American Halloween, is that right?
Exactly. This is going to be my first American Halloween, and my wife and I have already started putting little pumpkins and jack-o'-lanterns and little bats around the house. So, you do that stuff. It is my first, hopefully, first official Halloween where I'm going to get kids at the door trick-or-treating. So in various countries, in my country, it's not a thing, right? It's kind of slowly starting to be a thing, but not that much. Like Czech Republic and Malta did not have that. Ireland had that. The Irish have this kind of a thing. Yeah, they would have that. In Germany, it was a hit or miss. In Germany, 1 year, we were like, oh, it's going to be Halloween. A lot of kids. We bought candy. We were ready for kids to come and throw candy at them. Nobody came. The next year, we're like, you know what? They don't do that here. And we just didn't buy candy. Lo and behold, somebody knocking at our door, trick-or-treating. So my wife and I spent the night just hiding, ignoring kids. It was horrible.
And then you feel bad and all that. Yeah, so I grew up in Ohio, which is up Midwest state, and always lived in like real, very kind of densely packed neighborhoods. So trick-or-treating was like a crazy thing. Everybody did it, and my kids, of course, being Ohio, it was like usually freezing cold, and you're like bundling up. But yeah, now I'm down in Georgia, and I'm in a very rural area, very spread out, and so they do what's called trunk or treat here. Basically, everybody kind of meets up in a parking lot. Open. I'm loving your costume, by the way. It's just every time I see it switch, distracted, but in amusingly distracted. So yeah, everybody meets up in a parking lot. They throw candy in their trunk, and the kids
Okay.
walk trunk to trunk. So it's not quite the same, but at least it's something for the kids to do, right? And
It's a bit more practical.
true and safe, actually, because I read somewhere that like kids getting hit by vehicles, it's like astronomically higher
Oh wow,
on trick or treat Halloween. So yeah, in that aspect, it's safer. So
that's
um,
not very fun.
I guess I was gonna ask you if you have a favorite Halloween memory, but I guess you
I, I,
probably
I did. I have one Halloween memory, like a single Halloween memory, because I've only been once to a Halloween party, and that's about it. So, but it was, it was fun. That's the only time I dressed up as anything. I had similar to what you do right now. I have your little Skeletor dead face on my face. So one of the things I did similar to you, I had a beard. Also, my beard was white. However, I had little spiders all around my beard. So that
ooh.
was a yes, that was a fun thing. Other than that, nothing, to be honest.
Nice. So yeah, around Christmas time, I have the little clip-in jingle bells that go in your beard. You gotta get some of those. Yeah, for
As
sure.
one does, as one does, yeah.
Absolutely.
So I'm pretty excited to this. I like the whole spookiness of the thing. It's kind of like a. So here's the thing. I grew up with American culture, right? American culture is everywhere. I used to watch
Sure.
TV shows, movies, everything, and there was a lot of Halloween. And I didn't know what Halloween was back then when I was a kid, but I know about it, so I'm kind of excited to experience it firsthand now.
Well, it's so let's get into the topic at hand. And I'll come back to that comment in just a minute here. So the reason I wanted to have you on is because number one, um, just to kind of pull back the curtain a little bit and give a little behind the scenes peek for those that don't know, if you're okay with me sharing this, Darko kind of helps run all of the live streaming, really developer relations at AWS. So when I was going through the process trying to get this show, Darko was one of the ones who helped kind of mentor the process, make sure that I was filling out all the necessary forms and all that stuff, as well as performing the training for all of us potential live streamers at AWS to go on the AWS Twitch channel. So, in that regard, I think you have a lot of experience, and we obviously have a lot of fun in these streams.
Yeah.
And as much as we probably don't want to admit it, we are doing a job here, right? We're trying to build awareness for products, for services, for tools, doing our developer relations thing. But in my short time here, I've kind of learned, and through you and through others, that live streaming is really a good tool for this job. Why is that? Why does it work? What to you is the reason why it's successful to do these kind of streams?
Well, let's ask the chat. Chat, why do you like coming to Twitch? Why do you like doing any of this? Right? I think that's a big question, and that's the answer in itself. So unlike your typical let me put a video on YouTube or let me go to a conference, this is very much a two-way discussion. So like when I see Aaron and Aleph and Lily Hazel in the chat commenting on these things, I love this. Like this is why I do it. I like the discussions. I like people's real-time comments. And if I say something stupid, they're going to say, Darko, that's not correct. Or
Anne
better
says
yet,
she comes for your jokes.
exactly. There you go. And makes, of course, the jokes are the best when they're the worst. But one of the things that I find very, very useful is that so our jobs as developer advocates is to kind of course, spread awareness about products, but most importantly, be the voice of the customers within AWS.
Yes.
So if we have people like Anne and Lily Hazel in chat saying, Darko, I think CloudFormation is not good, and this is why. I'll take that to heart, and I'll take that to the product team and tell them and do that. It is much more real when they tell this to me in real time, right? And I find that as fascinating as I can.
Well, and I think it really just kind of, especially when you interact with the chat, like you just did, and
Yeah,
kind of showed me the way there. I think it when you listen to the chat and when you interact with it, it encourages people to continue to do that. And they're shaping
correct.
this show. They're making the content what it
Yeah,
is. And they're understanding that they're heard. They're actively participating. They're not passively consuming this stream. Um,
exactly.
one of the things for me, and this is going to sound absolutely ridiculous, but my technical difficulties, that's it's part of it. You know, these things
Yeah.
happen. Things go bad, things go wrong, things go off the wheels, and I'm okay with that. As you see, I didn't get upset. I was laughing the whole time. You know, of course I want to be fix it as soon as possible because the viewers don't want to see me talking or see me my video without hearing me talk the whole time. But it's part of the beauty of it. You know, it's real. It's we've just lost your video, Darko. I don't it's part of the whole experience. So
Yeah.
that said, let me ask you this: what doesn't work in a live stream? Have you had anything that you've kind of tried to do that didn't work as well as maybe you thought it would?
So I'll answer that, but I'm going to attach Fodder Goblin's comment here. So
Yeah.
Fodder Goblin says, often developers ask similar question, and what I want to know, direct access to very knowledgeable host is fun training. So it is a fun sort of a training thing. However, one of the things you need to understand on live streams, there's only so much we can do in a single 1 hour segment.
Yeah.
It's not a very directed, focused, this is 1 hour of pure learning and we just follow it by the book. It is difficult to achieve that. You can do that on longer streams, but usually on shorter streams that doesn't work. So one thing that doesn't work is very much directed training. I cannot educate you a lot. I can inspire you. I can say, like, listen, here's the thing you can do, and if you find that interesting, even if you don't know immediately how to do it, you're going to go look it up and you're going to check it out. And I'm going to make your day better because of that. That's the whole thing. Number two, what doesn't work is very short content. Condensed content does not work on Twitch. Why?
What do you mean by that?
So I cannot come on Twitch and do a 10-minute spiel about a thing.
Okay, gotcha.
Because the problem is there's a lot of this. There's a lot of back and forth, a lot of, hey, Lily Hazel, hey, Father Goblin, hey, Aaron Hunter. There's a lot of chit chats, a lot of discussions, a lot of tangents you take when it comes to live streaming. So usually more laid back discussions work best because you can include those people there, the wonderful Twitch chat. Otherwise, it's not a Twitch stream.
Yeah.
So I always go ahead. I'll say something later.
Actually, I was just going to say that you kind of have jumped to one of my future questions, and that is, what percentage of your streams is scripted versus just off the cuff, ad lib, kind of just go with it, see what happens?
Let me just check. 0. I don't script anything on our streams.
Really?
Nothing.
Not even like a list. So I have a list of questions. You don't even do that?
So it depends. If I have a guest
Yeah.
who has never been part of the live stream, right, and they are basically, I don't know them.
Yeah.
So what I do is I like run a preparation session with the guest where I like to ask them, hey, listen, Todd, can you tell me what is the thing you're trying to say during our stream? Like, what's your key point? What's your top 3 key points? And then based off of those, I kind of create a conversation.
Okay.
Sometimes if I want you to, if, like, for example, if you're my guest and you're delivering that specific topic on my show, I will say, like, listen, if you want, feel free to add a couple of questions you want me to ask you. Mm-hmm. Just because if you feel like I may miss out on something. So I rarely prepare anything. I kind of know the rough outline, what I'm going to talk about. Sometimes I have like bullet points of things I want to do. The problem with those bullet points is I tend to forget about them. Then I get stressed. I'm like, oh, I didn't cover this thing. And I'm like, oh, I'm freaking out. And it's just not fun. So, yeah.
Yeah, the funny thing is you just kind of led into another one of my questions here. And funnily enough, I do have a bunch of bullet lists, but it's actually about that. So running a live stream is tricky. It's like a lot of plates that you're kind of spinning in the air at the same time. You know, it's like you're listening to the guest, you're keeping an eye on the chat. Exactly, Aaron Hunter. Hey, chat, what do you want to hear Darko and Todd talk about? So I'm keeping an eye on that. I'm thinking of my next question. I'm modifying my next question because you may have already answered it, or it may kind of. So how do you keep all these kind of plates in the air? Do you just get does it just get easier with time, or is there a specific kind of thing that you've done, or you just, I guess it sounds like it's just Darko being Darko. It's just like, hey,
I think there's a couple of things you need to understand here. So number one, having a friend on stream is always helpful,
right,
right? I do the shows I do with the wonderful Jackie, and Jackie is just a blessing out there. She's a great co-host. She's a great main host. So she and I kind of flip back and
yeah,
forth who's leading the show,
right,
and then we kind of help each other to manage all of this stuff. So, for example, like you had an issue today with your audio. If I had issue with my audio, Jackie would just narrate my life, like how I struggle with what I do. So that helps a lot. Now, the other thing is that I kind of know what we're trying to achieve throughout the stream, and you just have to be you have to give yourself flexibility to get there in multiple different paths. That's why scripts don't work, right? I, I I've seen scripted streams, and it's just oh my god.
yeah,
The thing is, if it goes off the rails, it's done.
true. Um, I guess the next, so like it makes me wonder, like, how are you? I've met you in person, a couple months back.
Yeah,
This is just kind of you. This is who you are. I mean, people may think you're like putting on an act or something. How do you feel comfortable enough to just be you? Because sometimes some people think it's like it's not easy to do. You know, it can be kind of
yeah.
intimidating to have a camera and lights in your face, and it's not always the most comfortable thing to get on a live stream and just be yourself. How do you
I,
find
I
that? How do you do it?
I think at the moment I've learned not to take myself too seriously.
Like
That's
this?
when that's when it clicked. So usually one of the things that I've done before, it was, oh, I was really like, this is what I'm going to be doing, and this is how I'm going to be doing it, and it was very complicated. It needs to be super professional, polished, everything, and I was, okay, I need to do this. Then I figured out, you know what, the people there don't care about that. They care about learning something, being inspired, chit chatting with us, getting their questions answered. So that kind of got me to like, hey, you know what? You can do this easier. And by the way, it didn't come naturally; just came with time. I'm actually going to post a link in chat right now from my own account. Um, that is my first live stream ever.
Okay.
It was 2 years ago,
Hmm.
roughly, and you can see me struggle. I didn't know what I was doing. I think for the first 15 seconds, I was just saying, "This is my first stream ever." It just like, it's not. I wasn't born with it. It was just, I figured it out as you
Right.
go along and as you take it less seriously.
I definitely see the co-host anchor and
Yeah,
that helping you kind of feel comfortable, having someone
yeah,
that you can really vibe with, and you that, like you said, really kind of knows when you need them to pick up the slack. And I've watched some of your streams. You guys have a great back and forth. Jackie, she just laughs at you all the time, and I don't blame her. I would laugh at you all the time too,
yeah,
but she's just a fun person. I met Jackie as well. She's
yeah,
cool. Um, don't take yourself too seriously. That's it. Also, Lily Hazel,
yeah,
don't take yourself too seriously. Also, learning
yeah.
to laugh out mistakes and technical mishaps helps, and that's I think any developer relations person needs to
Right.
learn that. I mean, you're gonna have things go wrong. You're gonna be live coding, and something's
Yeah.
absolutely not gonna work. So, um, yeah,
And that's okay. I think, like, one of the things we're doing on these streams is we're earning trust with the audience, right? I hope the Twitch chat trusts me to an extent. Maybe not with their children, but at least trusts me to talk about technology. So I want to basically, I want them to understand. I want you, Twitch, to understand that I'm a human being. I make mistakes. I screw up. That's normal. That happens. And as long as you can kind of roll with it, it's easy. However, I'm not gonna say this is very easy. It's difficult. Like, if you're doing a demo or you're trying to build something and it
yeah,
just blows up on you,
yeah,
you start freaking out. I start freaking out. I'm like, okay, how do I salvage this? Right? You go, like, you start thinking fast. Um, but the tip for all of you out there who fail a demo is, don't just fail a demo and say like, well, that didn't work.
fix the demo.
Try to fix it,
Right.
and if you don't fix it, try fix it and narrate as you're fixing it. At
Yeah.
least you give something fun for people to watch.
Well,
So
I think it's so relatable, right? I mean, anyone who's ever written any code, sitting down, open up an IDE and written code,
yeah,
knows that it's not line by line perfect code and everything works and compiles and runs just the
yeah,
way it's expected to. You're going to hit bugs, you're going to hit unexpected things. And to me, it's okay to open up Google in a live stream and say, hey, let's figure this out. Because someone watching may have the same issue, and it's just relatable. You know,
yeah.
it's a weird thing, but do you know Julia Child? She was a very famous, she did a cooking show and she's written
Okay.
cookbooks. She was pretty much the pioneer of modern day television cooking shows. And way back in the 60s when she started, essentially that was what made her so popular. She made mistakes on her show and she addressed them. You know, if she was making a souffle and it didn't
Yeah,
rise, she was like, "Okay, this happens. Let's fix it." You know, and so being human is okay. There's nothing wrong with being human.
yeah.
If you're just joining us today, I would like to take this time to do a short recap and let you know that you are watching Streaming on Streaming. This is a developer focused show about live streaming. Joining me today is Darko Mesaroš, a developer advocate and live streaming expert.
Oh my
And
God.
that is my little recap that I learned from this wonderful, amazing trainer that told me that you should always kind of stop and remind people, new people join your
Yeah.
stream. And Bob Ross, Happy Little Accidents. Exactly, Father Goblin. That was actually Bob Ross. That was a costume that I considered for Halloween. That would have been a good one.
You have hair at least. I don't, so I can't do a Bob Ross unless I get a perm
Yeah,
wig or something.
yeah, that's true. Let me ask you, switch gears a little bit. So, my approach to these, instead of doing the prep interview, I like to kind of just do a little research on somebody, look at their LinkedIn. All of us have a trail of evidence that we've left on the web. So I like to do a little research on folks and learn a little bit about them. And I feel like trying to come up with some questions or get some ideas about a guest kind of leads to more spontaneity in the
Yeah.
conversation for me. So I learned that you have kind of a heavy background with hardware. You did a lot of sysadmin and hardware and this kind of thing. When did you kind of make that switch over to the software DevOps ish kind of world?
So I
And I
was
saw your
what they call
tattoo. That show your tattoo there on the
Oh
forearm
yeah,
there.
I have a Windows tattoo and an MS-DOS, and on this side I have root at localhost and Windows and a bunch of other things. So I come I mean actually started with IT relatively late in the world, but
Hmm.
my first IT job was in 2008, so it wasn't like early. Like when I say sysadmin, I don't mean like the olden sysadmins from the Telnet era, but
Gotcha.
I did come from a country where we didn't really catch up to modern technology as fast as some of you folks did. So I was a sysadmin for a relatively decent amount of time, and that's kind of was my entry into it. Like I was maintaining Windows, Linux through AIX, HPUX, Solaris systems at one point, and then as things started to progress into like more agile, faster development, I kind of saw that like I can't manage things anymore. I started to automate stuff, and as automation went, more DevOps type things came into play. And actually, my first time interacting with the cloud in any serious manner was 7 years ago when I joined AWS. I I worked in companies which were scared of the cloud, like insanely scared of the cloud,
Really?
and nobody would even, yeah, it was just like, oh, this is not secure, and then somebody hacks our Exchange server, which is on premises. So yeah, it's one of those things. And then I actually had like I was for 2 years I was a premium support engineer, and what's wonderful about that is that it is it's such a fast track um, learning experience to the cloud, because I was literally troubleshooting cloud issues with customers on the phone. And that was just a great way to fix the cloud or learn the cloud issues in and out in a really short amount of time.
Sure. Absolutely.
Yeah.
So, this is a Halloween episode. So, what's the scariest memory you have of your days as a sysadmin, or anything really? I mean, the way I think of it is this: every developer, well,
Yeah.
maybe not every developer, but a lot of developers have ran delete star on a production table once or twice in their career. And that's a pretty scary moment. You've just wiped out an entire table's worth of data.
Yeah.
You're hoping that the backup ran successfully. What is your scariest memory in your career?
So,
And the same goes to chat, actually. If
yeah.
throw that out there so you can all continue to think about that while Darko answers. What is your scariest? If you haven't taken on production, are you even developing? So okay,
Literally, like if you have never made a big problem that gave you this sinking feeling as soon as you hit enter, it's like no. So one of the things I done is, and this was a while back ago, that there's an old saying. I think it comes from the U.S. military. One is none and two is one, right? It says like one is none and two is one. That means you always need to have redundancy for whatever you're doing.
sure.
So I work as a sysadmin, and we had a big old SAN system, so storage area network, where we hosted all of the storage for all of the virtual machines we ran in our data center. And it was a decent system, and it's a big old thing that has two firmware controllers. Basically, just if one fails, the other one is okay. And I was like, you know what? It's time for us to update the firmware on the thing. There was no need to update the firmware, but I was like, I'm going to be a proactive sysadmin. I'm going to do this just in case. It's only Wednesday. So, having two firmware controllers is okay. And I think that's going to work fine. Then, as I'm updating one controller, the other one dies. Just
out of the blue, just happened to
just
be
completely goes offline.
Perfect time to
just goes offline.
Yeah.
While the other one is updating. And I'm sitting there thinking to myself, okay, one is none. Again, so I have no firmware controllers right now. I hope the update goes okay.
So how long did that update take?
It took a couple of minutes,
okay,
and it never finished because that controller died as well. The problem is I was living in a relatively remote area, and that was not very... We didn't have ready access to all the hardware we need.
Right.
So what happened was that we called the vendor, and they told us, yeah, we can bring it Tuesday next week. So
sure, why not? 6 days offline.
For almost a week, we had no IT infrastructure. And that was insane because literally there was no IT. All the VMs went down. Everything just went down.
Is this public facing or just internal? Or?
No, it was internal, but that means a lot of people couldn't work.
Right.
Like there was no email, there was nothing.
So you're saying you wanted a vacation, is what you're saying?
Exactly. That's the whole reason. But that entire sinking feeling when I saw this happening was like, and I sat there. It was just like, why? Why did this happen? I didn't know. Like it was just so scary. And I mean, let's be honest, it was very unfortunate. It wasn't, I mean, I didn't want this to happen. However, I could have taken more precautions with this, right? First of all, I shouldn't have updated this. I should just not have updated it.
There was no need
because
for it.
There was absolutely no need for it. Like it was just me on a whim doing it. So yeah, and I should have thought about some maybe precautions, like for example, getting a spare controller, another one, because as soon as you start take one down, you're down to a single controller. And what is one? One is none.
Right.
So
I spent a lot of time, 15 years actually, in my career very early on at AT&T, and I think you also worked at AT&T.
Yeah, worked at AT&T.
But yeah, so I designed fiber optic networks, and redundancy is a huge thing in fiber optic networks. You don't ever have one single point of failure. So let's check out the chat a little bit here. Aaron's
I see a bunch of great comments.
Scariest memory in my career. I'll answer that by asking you a question. And I don't know the answer to this, so someone else will have to answer. What happens when you plug both ends of a cable into the same router? I imagine it shorts it out.
Would a spanning tree protocol kind of prevent that? Would STP not? I'm not a network person, so I'm not sure.
Yeah, I'm not either.
Aaron, the problem. Aaron,
please tell us. I'm dying to know, and I think I might go downstairs and do that right now. Maybe I should wait till the show's over though. Robert, little Robert Tables,
Bobby Tables,
little Bobby Tables. I took down prod, my first project, by adding a gzip config that worked for Jetty Local, but crashed Tomcat. Took Totally took down the QA team from the other side of the world for the whole day. Whoops.
Oh boy. Yeah. I mean, I've seen people basically just kind of add features to a project, and completely decide to, you know what, we don't need the rest of the commits to a Git repository. We're just gonna flatten it all into a single commit, and we don't need to roll back because we're making big changes now.
Yeah,
And
you'll
then
never
those
need
big
that.
they never need that. So I think, like, when it comes to like making production changes, never underestimate the power of backups.
Yeah.
Even if they're simple, let me just tar up this directory backup. You're gonna thank yourself in the morning if things go wrong, because backups are never important.
No, I
Yes, they are.
totally agree. I mean, I'm so paranoid sometimes. I'll zip and literally put it on a flash drive just to keep it outside of the machine that I'm working on. I mean, sometimes, yeah. I mean, 18 years in software will teach you to be a very paranoid person. Father Goblin, late on a Friday afternoon, I ran a SQL statement against prod that inactivated every user account of our website. At least that Father Goblin, was it like that all weekend, or at least were you able to get in there and like roll that back before people
Yeah.
spent the entire weekend offline?
Yeah, I mean, I think luckily that sounds like a fixable problem,
Right.
unless he has also, or they have also, invalidated themselves as a user, um,
Oh,
which
wow.
I've seen people lock themselves out, like, from systems, basically just like disable all the accounts, including their own, and then you're just like, what now?
Right.
um, okay, so the
Aaron's
DBA
Hunter,
rolled
were
back.
you trying to quit?
Yeah. So I mean, when it comes to, like, those kind of horror stories, there's always very impactful. You always remember them, right? I think
Yeah.
that's kind of a thing that you will see, that people remember what happened very vividly. And I'll challenge all of you, Aaron, Bobby Tables, and Father Goblin. I'm sure you remember what you had for dinner that day,
Right.
because it was very impactful. The emotional cocktail triggered a bunch of memories on you. So I am pretty sure. Yeah. So so that is
Absolutely.
it. That is cool. I hope you learned something from it. That's it.
All right. Hardware. Let's talk about hardware. I read on your website, rup12.net. I collect a lot of old technology and try to make it do what it should not. And I don't know if the next sentence is a joke or not, but you say, like, deploy
It's
AWS
not.
infrastructure through a Commodore 64. Certainly that's a joke, right? I mean,
It's not. So let me. So this little thing is. So I grew up in a country where we didn't have access to, like, a lot of modern stuff.
okay.
So, and I was kind of, we grew up poor. So this was my main computer
That was my
until
first machine.
2001.
Oh, until 2001. Oh, mine.
Exactly.
It was
So
mine in 85. Yeah, 1985.
yeah,
That was my
yeah.
computer.
My father bought us one in 1991. I think it was smuggled from West Germany, and
Wow.
it was it was my only computer in 2001. And in 2001, I upgraded to a 486. It's insane. Any case, I love Commodore 64s. I kind of grew up on them, and
Yeah.
they kind of made me what I am. They made me love computers. So
Right.
I like to do weird things with them. So, for example, I don't have it right now here, but one of the things you can do on a Commodore 64, you can actually attach a little adapter to the user port that emulates a modem. Like Commodore support modems, like your traditional one of these, the Hayes modems, they would support them. But this is Wi-Fi, so in essence, it emulates a modem, but it's connected to a Wi-Fi system. Then through that, you can connect to a random system. So what I did is I basically used like a um, it's called like it was like a client application for, like, a telnet or whatnot, and
Yeah.
I would
Yeah.
telnet to a system running on my desk and do AWS stuff on it. I wrote CDK code through this thing. There are some issues. The Commodore keyboard does not support curly braces, so I had to do it purely in Python.
Oh,
So, like, no curly braces were supported on this one. If I ever had to write JSON, I would be in a field of problem. So that was a thing. And it's kind of always fascinating to me, like, um, how these things were from a different time, right? But you can actually still do things with them, right? Like I can technically do my job through this thing.
It wouldn't be
Sort
very
of.
efficient,
It
but
wouldn't be very efficient, absolutely not. But like you can. So like I have a bunch of
yeah.
like
Tell
old
me more. What other
workstations.
kind of hacks have you done with the ridiculous old hardware?
I mean, I for my European friends, I have Amigas, Commodore Amigas, which are very popular in Europe. So I have a bunch of those, and the same thing I've done with them. I've basically connected to a system remotely and done a thing. Um, I've done, I've done, I have a bunch of old Sun Spark systems, like from 1995,
Yeah.
um, which technically, I mean, you could just SSH to a system, but that's too easy. So I've kind of built Python for them and then kind of used database CLI on them, which is even weird because HTTPS is super weird on those old systems. So that's a thing I've done. And the latest weirdness, and this is not too old or not too esoteric, but I have a Pentium 2 sitting next to my gaming computer at my gaming room,
Hmm.
and it runs NetBSD. So the thing with NetBSD is it can run on anything. So
Can it run Doom?
NetBSD, it can run Doom, absolutely, but it runs on a 400 megahertz Pentium 2 with 128 megs of RAM. And I am trying to set up AWS CLI on it. AWS CLI 1 works on it, 2 doesn't. I don't know why. There's some cryptographic issues, whatever.
Yeah.
But version 2 doesn't work, which is fun. I tried to build it. It takes like 47 minutes to build on that system. But yeah, it's one of those things that's kind of interesting to do. And I'm not sure if I can do this right now, but um, I have a little Macintosh
Is that
classic
yeah?
here.
Is that a
Yeah,
CRT?
it's not a CRT per se. Well, technically it is, but it's a full
Oh yeah,
Macintosh.
yeah, yeah.
So it's a Macintosh ST30. It works. It's not plugged in currently, but I have it all here. And I use this thing as a joke to do some C development because I have like a C IDE set up on it just for fun because why not? So yeah. But I
Uh,
see
Aaron's
Aaron
Hunters.
come.
Yeah, he said he would love to watch a stream of you setting that up. Have you done that? I think you have, haven't you?
I have not done that
No?
on like any of the official streams. Of course, I can't stream that on the AWS channel, which would make not a lot of sense. But I do have my channel Roop 12, whatever you see it here next to my face. No,
Yeah,
there we
over
go.
there. Over there.
And I may do that at one point. I just need to figure out how that would work. So yeah, it's something that it's always fun, right? But it just takes time. So
Yeah, absolutely. Last night, Robert Table says last night, minutes before an AWS meetup, I was updating the README for a CDK app on my iPad via an EC2 instance with VS Code server on the
yep.
Tailscale network. I saw something on Reddit the other day that I don't know. It had to be a joke, right? Because it's Reddit. But someone claimed that they were a developer and they didn't own a laptop. They claimed that they did everything on their mobile
Oh
phone,
my god.
which
Okay.
I don't
I
know.
mean, technically, yes, you can do that. However, um, it is not very efficient. Right? I think it boils down to the same thing. Like I can do most of my work on this thing here, but it's not very efficient in
Or
all of these
fun,
things. Or fun even. Yeah. Well, it may be fun. I don't know, but
maybe.
it's not something that you wish to do all the time, right? So I see people do stuff from iPads. I mean, that's like
Yeah.
uh, GitHub has Spaces, VS Code has this thing,
Mhm.
and Cloud9 and whatnot. So you can do all of those fun stuff.
Have you messed around much with that kind of remote cloud kind of IDE? I haven't really played with many of those.
I've worked with Cloud9, and the reason I like those kind of things, like so, for people that know me, I do a lot of stuff in the command line. So for
Yeah.
me, just give me Vim and a terminal, I'm fine, right? But if I'm working on a specific project, one of the things I like to do is I just go and create a Cloud9 instance, which is just your virtual IDE. It's basically an EC2 instance.
Okay.
And the reason I do that is because I package all of my stuff there. And I know that if I need to work on it, I can just open it up, work it, everything's set up. I haven't changed anything. No packages were updated. Nothing was outdated. And I can just keep on working it on that there. So just for that reason, I enjoy that. So yeah.
Yeah, Robert Table says, think of it this way. We're offloading computation to other computers all the time. The next in line is your IDE.
Yeah, absolutely.
I mean,
Absolutely.
it's certainly, there's something to be said. At my last job, I know some developer advocates that would actually spin up like a ridiculously massive VM in the cloud and run their demos on it. I mean, there's something to be said for the
Yeah,
massive computing power, running,
exactly.
IntelliJ with like 120 gigs of RAM. But at the same time, like you said, it's repeatable. You can basically just trash that instance and turn it back up
Yes.
tomorrow and start from scratch again, run a
Yep.
certain demo. Um,
Exactly. So that works a lot, especially for me, for my development process, is that I tend to work on things and then forget about them. And then if I come back months later and I have changed the tool chain, updated stuff, and the thing doesn't work anymore, oh God, okay, what do I do now? So if I have it already set up in some place, I can just shut down and come back to it later on. It does wonders for me.
Right. Mookie Monkey. And this is a good point. Coding on the phone could be useful for people who can't afford a computer. I mean, that's
Yep.
something we definitely have to consider and think about. There's people, like you said, you grew up in a poor country that was kind of
Yeah.
behind the times with tech. Why should people that live in those kind of countries not be able to have the same access to or be able to create software just like all of us do?
I mean, the same goes for like, if I mean, I don't think people work on compilation as much as they used to do in the past, right?
Right.
But you don't need to compile. To be honest, I may be wrong, but like, I don't think code compilation takes as long as it used to do. But if you can
It
have like
depends.
okay, yeah. I mean, you can have a very cheap Chromebook on you, like for less
Right.
than $100, and you can be a full-fledged developer with like a VS Code space or a Cloud9 instance that you pay per month just a bit for big old compilation projects or whatnot. So I think
Right.
that's definitely helpful.
Um, I have spent a lot of time in the Java world, and the Java world is interestingly moving more towards doing things at compile time as opposed
Yeah.
to at
Okay.
runtime, or you know, um, because it gives you a lot of efficiency at runtime if things are already done and taken care of pre-compiled.
Yep.
So, but I mean, even still, there's build systems, there's build pipelines, CI/CD pipelines that can run your build for you and then
Yeah.
just give you an artifact at the end of the day. Um,
But just to stay on this topic
yeah,
of offloading things to something
yeah,
else, the thing we're doing right now, right? Your computer, well, in this case, your computer is doing that, but like the actual delivery of video to other folks, right? People are not connecting to your laptop to watch this video.
right,
They're using this wonderful thing of Twitch to offload that kind of a stuff. And if you're using AWS, there's IVS, plug,
right,
plug, plug,
right.
or even more, right? So we do that more than we think we do.
No, and exactly, and the it's a perfect analogy, not just because I'm a developer advocate for Amazon IVS, but the fact that Amazon IVS is purpose built. It is made
Yes.
for this very purpose of streaming very high quality, low latency video. So we're kind of seeing more of these purpose built networks and infrastructures being built that can handle these kind of tasks. Um, I want to talk about automation. We talked about it briefly, but you said on your website, if it can be automated, I will definitely try to do so. I have a different way of stating that. I
Okay.
basically say, why take 5 minutes to do something manually when I can take 5 hours to automate it? But no, I'm a huge proponent. Anyone who knows me knows that I'm a huge proponent of automation. I am the type of person to write scripts to make my life easier. Number one, because I think it gives a really good learning experience a lot of times, and just learning something new, trying to solve a problem in a different way there's nothing ever wrong with that. And number two, many times in this life of a technical person, you do
Yeah.
things that have to be repeatable. Exactly. If it's repeatable, you could share that to 100 people and 100 times the time saved.
Yeah.
Um, so,
I
yeah.
pasted the link there to XKCD just so you know. That's the graph of how much
Right.
should you automate. How long can you work on making a routine to make the task more efficient? Basically, how long should you spend time on automating things? Of course, this is not how things work out in the long run, and we all love to automate things. Um,
Is
I
that come
say,
more from your your sysadmin kind of days?
yeah.
Yeah.
So like I think I always say to people, like, sometimes people are scared of automation, like, and that was always the case, right? People, oh, if they have this, my job is no longer
Yep.
valid.
Yep.
No,
You're
fellow engineers,
10 times more
automate.
valuable.
Exactly. Automate your jobs away. Please do that. You don't want to be repeatedly doing the same menial task, because if you're doing that, you're not doing something better. So the way you progress in your life, your career, and whatever you're doing, and even if you don't want to do some massive career shifts upwards, you want to do something more fun, right? How about you automate all the boring stuff away
Right.
and you just do interesting thing like streaming on Twitch?
Right. No, and you're again, it gives you more time to learn new things and try new things. And you know, nobody has ever, I don't know. Has anybody ever automated themselves out of a job? Is that
No.
even
I,
possible?
I don't think somebody has done. I mean, maybe something very esoteric, but I don't think I've heard of an example where somebody is completely, well, that's me. Goodbye. Right? Here's a shell script that's darko.sh. Right? That's not the case. And as Kostek says, if you're not automating, somebody will else automate you out of your job. So, I would say, like, and this is silly, like, automation does more than just automate your job away. It helps you learn, right? When you automate things, you start to think systematically. You start to think on a larger scale, right? If you click your button 7 times, you don't think of the larger picture. Just click your button 7 times.
Right.
But if you automate that, you always think, like, what if I run this 1,000 times? And you kind of just better yourself
And there's
ultimately.
always an edge case too. I mean, at least in my experience, you may automate something, um, but tomorrow a new version comes along, or
Yeah.
a new something new comes along that you have to address. So Costech says, I've tried, I promise, but once they find out I can automate, they want me to automate something else. Exactly. Automation allows time for more innovation. That is a good one. I like that, Aaron's Hunter. Very well done. And if you can automate yourself out of a job, you would be able to get another job.
Yeah.
Very true.
Exactly.
Very true.
Exactly. I think it's, again, you just improve yourself. Rarely do you automate. If you're capable of automating yourself out of a job, you're really good at what you do.
Right.
Just so you know.
Yeah.
So you'll be fine.
Yeah, and you're proving your value to the organization. We have 7 minutes left. I want to leave a little bit of time here if there's any more questions in the chat. If anybody wants to ask Darko anything, ask myself anything. It's been a very different kind of scary good stream today. Darko, do you have any final thoughts that you'd like to share related to live streaming?
I really hope they're not final. That's just my thing. I would say, when it comes to live streaming, I, one of the things I found that works really good on live streaming, and it works good both ways,
Okay.
is try to do a thing that you have to do on a live stream. Give an example.
Okay.
A while back, I had to create a bunch of demos for a talk.
Yeah.
Instead of Darko sitting by himself in a
Ah.
room and just building demos, I hopped on Twitch. There happened to be a bunch of people on Twitch watching me build a demo. And again, it kind of did a few things. Number one, it made me do a thing. Number two, it made me do that thing better because I have people watching me now. So I tried my best to make it as good. And number three, I hopefully answered somebody's questions. Maybe I even entertained somebody. So it's a great thing. And again, as long as you can talk to yourself, relatively not seriously, you should be fine.
So that's a good one, because I do plan on doing some of that kind of stuff fairly soon here, right here
Yeah.
in on this show, just building things and breaking things and seeing what
Yeah.
happens. When you do those, are you typically by yourself, or is that
Yeah, and I usually do it on my channel. The sole reason is that I don't know how long this is gonna last. It's not gonna be just like, you know what, I'm gonna build something. It may take me 3 hours. It's usually me just like with some chill music in the back, and it feels like a co-working session. You're watching a bald man build things while chatting with him. So it is something that's enjoyable, right? So it's usually just me. The thing is, if you have a friend on, it may seem like you're wasting somebody else's time.
Right.
Like, okay, I
Right.
have you here watching me work. Like if it was you and me, Todd, it would potentially be a lot. So, but it's usually by myself. Yeah.
Gotcha. Do you do that on the AWS channel or do you do that on your
No, 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 no. I
personal?
mean, yeah, I do it on my personal channel. So I've done it a long time ago. I
Yeah.
do plan to do something similar like that on my own channel. So I want to do something, and this has been very fun in my team. We have a thing called winging it,
Yeah.
where you basically take a random bit of documentation or a workshop or a how-to guide or something, and you do it. There's a couple of things that come out of that. You learn something, but you also figure out if it works or not. So I plan to do that on my channel. I don't know when, but it's going to be like a longer chill stream where I just try to do a thing. And if people join, that's okay. But if not, it's just me trying to figure out a thing in real time.
Yeah, I did that once a long time ago. I excuse me. Um, there was a Python application that somebody had wrote. It wasn't very complicated, but it was
Okay.
just this REST API. And I said, I'm going to rewrite this in Java. And I said, you know what? This would be fun to live stream. So I just hopped on Twitch, opened up,
That's it.
and just okay. It was mostly me talking to myself line by line. Okay, what is this line doing? Okay, this line is going
Yeah.
to, make a post request, blah, blah, blah. And I
Yeah.
just rebuilt it. And I hosted that on my YouTube channel. And that thing still gets like 500 views a month. Like it's the most
Beautiful.
popular thing. Just people want to come and watch me build, I guess.
People like that. People
Yeah.
enjoy that kind of a thing, and especially if it's real, if you fail, if it's, of course, it's not very time efficient, so it's not us being
Right.
frugal with your time. I
Right.
get that, but hey, if you have a couple of hours to spare or just kind of drop in to watch a bald man build things, that's cool. That can be entertaining.
I watch, believe it or not, I spend a lot of time watching videos of people tearing down electronics and repairing
Yeah,
them or reverse engineering, and it's just
beautiful.
relaxing to me. It's just to me, it's just every night I fall asleep watching these things
Yeah,
because they're just chill. It's just like watching someone go through the thought process and reverse engineering something.
I
Um,
fully agree. I fully
yeah.
agree.
So Robert Table says if you can find a good community, learning in public is a ton of fun.
Yes.
Absolutely. None of us are as good as all of
Yeah.
us.
Yes,
Absolutely.
that's true. If you want to learn knitting on Twitch, a colleague of mine, Chris Howard, she has her own Twitch channel where she did a bunch of knitting live on
Really?
stream. So yeah, Chris did that, and it's a pleasure to watch. I mean, she knows how to knit, so it's not something that she was learning, but she was building things as knitting. So that's a pretty cool thing. Yeah,
Robert Tables, did you know knitting was one of the earliest examples of programming?
you have to
Okay.
be systematic on that.
Yeah.
Yeah,
Yeah.
that's
Okay.
pretty cool. Before we wrap up, Todd, I
Yes.
just wanna can I plug something?
No, no, I'm afraid. Absolutely, absolutely. Plug as many things as you need.
This live stream was brought to you by my show tomorrow. So tomorrow at 9 a.m. Pacific, which is 6
12,
6 p.m.
12, 12
12
Eastern.
Eastern,
Yes.
6 p.m. Central European time for the Euro folks there. Jackie, myself are also having a spooky live stream, so come and join us. We have a bunch of guests from the community who are going to talk about their own spooky stories from tearing down production. So join us there tomorrow 9 a.m. Twitch.tv is like, well, here, this place where you that thing you click there. But tomorrow. So thank you so much.
Yeah, absolutely. Very, very, very happy to have you on the show today. Appreciate it very much. I know it was kind of a different stream today. Next week we will be back focusing very deeply on Amazon Interactive Video
Yeah,
Service. We're actually going to create a channel, learn what it takes to create a live streaming channel in Amazon IVS. We'll be getting out the
beautiful.
editor, getting out the CLI, the SDKs, figuring out all the different ways to do that, and show you how to actually broadcast your first stream. You won't want to miss it, and I will see you all next week. Darko, again, a pleasure, and we'll
Thank you so
be
much.
chatting very soon. Thanks again.
Bye.
Thanks for everybody in the chat again, also for participating. Made it very fun. All right, see ya.